This plant here isn't doing so hot since I left for 10 days to go to California. You see the leaves here? It reminds me of that SpongeBob sound effect. Anyway guys, I'm back from California. I made a few videos. If you're interested, check out the last 2 videos I put out. But I wanted to also share a more personal story, anecdote. Malibu, for those of you who don't know, that was the last video that I put out. Gay dating in Malibu. Malibu is like 10, 15, maybe 20 miles away from Los Angeles based on like what part of Malibu you're measuring to what part of LA, since they're both kind of vast. So it's like separate from LA, but it's close enough that, you know, the people who hang out in LA hang out in Malibu. And when I was on these apps, naturally, some of the guys that I would see were based in LA, and so I guess some of the guys who were based in LA saw me on these apps in Malibu. And while I was in Malibu, 4 different guys from when I lived in LA, I left LA in like February of this year, 2020. So I've been in Miami for over 6 months, but really I had already left LA, I guess, casually. Like I still had my lease, but I had been gone for months because I had been traveling internationally. For those of you who remember all the travel videos I did in the fall last year, 2019. Technically I still had my residence in LA, but I had a guy's like subleasing, illegally. He was just there, you know, paying the rent basically. But anyway, so I had been gone from LA for a while. So these 4 guys, seeing them either on apps or they saw me on an app and then reached out by text because they found out I was in the area. It was like a blast from the past. And you know, every once in a while in life that'll happen to you, but usually it's like one person, right? This was 4 guys. And so that was very interesting to have in this very short span of time. I mean, I was only in Malibu for like, let's see, 2.5 days, like just a few days, and in those few days they happened to spot me on these apps. One guy just saw my Instagram stories that, you know, I posted like a sunset little clip from the beach in Malibu, so he saw from there that I was in the area. The others saw me on Tinder, and it was totally bittersweet because of course it's nice to know that like you still got it, you know what I mean? That like these guys from your past are still kind of thinking about you, are still interested. And also it's just like, you know, soothing to the ego to think, oh, this connection fell apart before I left, but like I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't really fully that I was being rejected or whatever, because clearly they're still kind of interested. In most cases, I think it was a case of like passivity or ambivalence on their part, and then suddenly they see me again, blast from the past. There's an excitement, I think, that comes from like, oh, it's this guy that like I used to talk to. And then also I think with COVID, I think people right now are especially lonely. But the bitterness part of the bittersweetness that I mentioned is like, these guys had their chance. You know what I'm saying? So a part of me kind of felt annoyed that they haven't made any effort to maintain communication with me since I left LA. Most of them, I think, I'm not even sure if any of them knew from me that I had left, because we had already just kind of, the connection had fizzled out. So part of me was like pleased that they reached out. I think that it's bold to see somebody on Tinder and then reach out by text message and make that effort. But at the same time, I was kind of irritated because I was like, you shouldn't have to see me. You shouldn't have to see a profile of me, pictures of me, to like rekindle an interest. And maybe that's me having too high of expectations, but that was just how I felt. That being said, because I appreciated the boldness, as I mentioned, I responded to all of them and I was like, hey, yeah, I'm here just for a few days. But I had no interest in meeting with any of them while I was there, just for like the 2.5 days or whatever that I was there. If I'm only here for almost a 48-hour period, I don't want to spend time investing in a connection that they had the time, more than enough time, to invest in while I lived in Los Angeles and didn't really meet me halfway when I wanted them to. It's interesting because I have a friend who's a straight female who has always told me that this is a thing men do, that they, you know, disappear or they flake or they, you know, are indifferent or act indifferent, and then they always circle back. And it's very rarely happen to me that way. So to have it happen in this one short span of time, for it to be all 4 guys making a comeback, was just so unusual and telling, I think, as well. And by the way, I'm aware that over the past year or so, I've had kind of like a look upgrade, and it's been a natural evolution. You know, even before Miami, living in LA was a look upgrade from New York City, because all year round, all of a sudden you're in a climate that is conducive to going for walks every day, going for a run every day. It's just easier to maintain physical activity, and you know, I'm not vitamin D deficient anymore, and it shows. So it's easier, I think, to prioritize lifestyle and therefore just physical appearance and fitness and health when you're in a place like LA or Miami versus a place like New York City. Also, just in New York City, I was sitting behind a desk 9 to 5, well, more like 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. And when I moved to LA, I started working from home, and I've been working from home since, even before the pandemic. So that allows for a different type of lifestyle where suddenly I don't feel like trapped behind a desk with, you know, people monitoring me to make sure that, you know, I'm actually at work at the office all day. And I found that I've naturally just lost quite a bit of weight since I left New York City. I probably lost at least 10 pounds, and I haven't like created a workout regimen or whatever, or exercise regimen. It's just been a natural evolution of shifts in lifestyle and from where I've moved to. I feel that right now I'm the most fit I've ever been, and that I'm, dare I say, a more attractive version of me than I was, let's say, 2 years ago. So I can't help but feel that when these guys see me again in a Tinder profile or whatever, there's a lust component, or a component of like, oh, like he's even, you know, I'm more attracted to him now than I was then. So all these reasons combined just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I just didn't really, I answered these guys just out of politeness and because I appreciated, you know, it's always nice to know that somebody's thinking of you and making an effort, but it's like I kind of had my guard up, and in the end, the new conversations fizzled out. And it's honestly my doing, because I wasn't really inquisitive or that conversational. I just kind of responded politely and didn't make much of an effort to keep it going. And this is something I struggle with, by the way, like just in general in life, even outside of romance. This idea of like, when do you decide to give somebody a second chance just because they're human and you're human and you've made mistakes and they've made mistakes? And at what point are you like, like you had your chance to be a part of my life, a part of my world, and you didn't really meet me halfway, you know, skedaddle. I guess it's case by case, right? And it's like, it depends on how the person comes your way. Like one of these 4 guys texted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, sexy." Nothing else, no context, no, "Hey, don't know if you remember whose number this is," or like, "Hey, just saw that you were on Tinder." None of that, just "Hey, sexy." Like that's just like tacky to me. So I guess you have to look at like the delivery of the person, and are they self-aware about that delivery and like why the connection had fizzled out in the first place. So it was just interesting to spend about a week in Southern California between San Diego and Malibu and not meet anybody new, even though I was like curious and kind of longing for just like a little spark, you know, just for that short trip to meet somebody for a drink or whatever. So it's ironic that that didn't happen, yet these guys circled back. One of them even circled back after I was already back to Miami. In the words of Carole King, it's too late now. But it goes to show you too how much of connecting with people is about timing, right? Timing and place. And then I guess for the right person, you might be willing to make an exception or reconsider things like timing and place. But I don't know, I have yet to find a person who woos me to that extent that I'd be willing to reconsider those parameters, I guess. Anyway, curious to see what you guys think, as always.